Oh, we're recording. The Philosophy of Reading tag. This was created by Brandon's bookshelf, and I thought
without Brandon, it was just his bookshelf.
Yeah, it's just
very clever
a
bookshelf.
Sentient bookshelf he has.
Yeah,
quite deep. I don't think we were tagged in this. To be honest, I have lost. I thought we were tagged in it when I tried to figure out who it was. I couldn't find it. So if you did tag us, I'm sorry. But this is a really, really good tag. I think that Brandon has created this tag by asking questions that were a little bit vague and let the person answering the question really take it where they want to take it. I think it's a really good tag, and if you wanted to write your own tag, you could do worse than copy this. Don't plagiarize tags.
Yeah.
But yeah, multiple questions here could just be like standalone discussion videos. Let's get into it quickly because it's a long tag and we talk a lot. What's most important? A good character, plot, or message?
Whatever the author is trying to give to me.
So author intent is most important.
No. Because I think some authors are good at things that they don't really necessarily intend to be good at.
So whatever you take out of the book is most important.
Yeah.
And that's different from book to book.
Yeah.
Is there one of those things that you take out more?
No.
I would put character and message above plot. It depends what the message is. The message could really completely make the book crap. Which case it is actually important in that case. It's not just that I disagree with it. Should one read books about ideas or opinions they disagree with?
I'm just going to caveat this discussion with bigotry is not an opinion or an idea. It's a bigotry.
I think the answer is yes, but, and it's a huge but.
No, I don't think it's a huge but. I think it is yes, but it has to be interesting in the same way ideas that I do agree with have to be interesting to get my attention.
Yeah, but it's also got to be well researched and well informed.
Same as I would expect from ideas I do agree with. Like if we're talking about non-fiction books, I expect them to be well researched, well supported arguments. So
what I'm actually trying to get at is if you disagree with me, you probably need to research your ideas more.
I understand what you're saying. I definitely think there are certain topics that I will. Yeah, that is kind of true.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like I'm done talking about certain topics because I know what I think and I'm not changing my mind. What is the point of engaging in dialogue?
Not only I'm not changing my mind, but I feel like I'm very well informed. Abortion, I think, is one of those topics that most young women go through a stage where they want to know their own opinions about, and anyone who has an intellectual bent then goes and researches a butt ton of things, and I feel like I've read every single thing on abortion ever. I know what I think about abortion, and it would take new science to get me to read anything written about abortion that isn't based on current events.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be interesting.
You've got to have something new to bring to the discussion.
Yeah.
Is really what it is.
And if I don't know shit about the discussion, then I'm much more likely to read it, because I don't know shit.
And you're not going to convince me that socialism is bad, or that feminism is bad, or that racism is good. So
yeah, well, bigotry is not an opinion. So
yeah, bigotry is not an opinion. Yeah. As tech advances, what do you think will be the role of books?
I think they'll have the same role they have now.
Yeah, I think we should say, caveat, we filmed about 5 or 6 questions and realised that we didn't hit record.
Yeah.
So, and this one I said that people like stuff, so people will always have physical books because people like stuff.
I actually think my point for this question was kind of somewhat interesting. I think that the barrier for publication in e-publishing is too low. I think that you can see by looking at what has happened to informational websites where ebooks are sort of headed. No one checks that they're correct, factual, that the title matches the content, that they're formatted correctly.
It's actually something that I would be very happy to listen to somebody write a book about the opposite side of. While I agree with what you're saying, I also think that self-publishing is an awesome thing that allows people to get their work out there that wouldn't otherwise.
I totally agree.
And one of our favourite books of the year is a self-published... Oh, no, it's not. It's small press. Sorry.
It's small press. And I also don't like the idea that the financial barrier of self-publishing is the difference between books having enough of a barrier and ebooks not having enough of a barrier, because there's not that financial barrier to self-pub.
Yeah.
But there is definitely a bunch of shit that is getting published in ebooks that needs to be filtered out somehow.
I think we get a lot of messages. I mean, not as many as some people, but we get a lot of messages. Will you read and review our book? And then when they tell you what it is, you're like, I've only read one zombie book and that was a bit of a joke. Like, how important are summaries, reviews, and art in book choosing? In your book choosing, rather.
I don't like the summaries that publishers put out. That's one of the main reasons that I participate in booktube, because I think that the way that human beings who have read the book summarize them is way better than what they're putting as blurbs on the back of the book or in the product description on Amazon or whatever. I don't know who writes those, but do better.
I think reviews are really important from my fellow booktubers. A review from Stephen King or from Salman Rushdie, or there are some authors that you always see their name on the front cover, like
you're like
yeah,
you read all these
Stephen
books.
I'll do a review for $5 King.
Yeah.
Is not gonna, it doesn't cut it for me.
No, but Bernardine Evaristo has pointed me to a couple of good ones this year.
Yeah, but see, Bernardine Evaristo is not on the front cover. Bernardine Evaristo has actively been an activist for those books, really.
No, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Also, I disagree with her choice of the Woman's Prize. So her
So you're mad at her.
Yeah.
But Tori
I'm not
Peters
sure.
is one of the reasons why we picked up Daryl.
Well, okay, but I think that booktuber reviews are quite important.
Definitely. I think that the intercontextuality of art is something that I have lost in my book selection process, and I just think that's because I'm disengaged from art in comparison to when I was at university and in art galleries every week.
Art is such a vague thing. Like, I think some of the booktube we watch is art.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
all of it, not even a lot of it, but some of it is art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Therefore, that informs my opinion. Should one ever skim or scan a book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's practical reasons why that is a thing. Should one skim or scan a book that they're not enjoying just to finish it?
Just put it down.
I mean, that's
Stay an effort.
I mean, but maybe you want to know what. I mean, I never quite get this. I just wanted to know what happened, so I scan read it or I skim read it.
Like, how can you be not enjoying it and want to know what happens at the end?
You are engaged.
Can we talk about this tag? You said the word should.
Oh, it has used should quite a bit, hasn't it?
I personally, after the suggestion of my therapist, have eradicated the word should from my personal vocabulary. I do not use it because it's not a nice word. When you think about what it means, it actually just imposes judgment on people for whatever reason. And
You should be in a well-paying job by now.
yeah, like it's an aggressive, horrible, judgy word.
It's passive-aggressive, isn't it?
It's not nice. I don't like it. And human beings use it a lot when they're talking in their self-talk, and being conscious of that is good practice. It certainly made me happier.
Should reading always be enjoyable?
Nah.
No, I don't think it should. Oh, look, I failed. Within one sentence. This is interesting. How can we erase should and interesting from all of our vocabularies?
I think should is easier to get rid of than interesting. Because I actually use interesting in several contexts. But once you stop judging people,
Yeah. Look,
and once you stop trying to apply your values to other human beings, the word should just disappears.
I think this question is trying to get to a point of, does reading something that makes you feel uncomfortable, is that more important than the book being enjoyable?
I think we were talking about this earlier. I think that discomfort is actually one of the signs that you're learning and growing. So it might even be a sign of value that you're uncomfortable and that you're not in your happiest place. I guess because I interpret discomfort as that I enjoy discomfort. I'm not just a sicko.
I think that this all depends on why you're reading.
Yeah, and what?
And what?
Yeah.
I think that there are people out there that just read cozy mysteries and they enjoy that mystery, the brain puzzle, that's what they enjoy.
And it's their downtime or their,
And I'm not judging that.
Cool.
And there's a million other different examples I could have picked like that. Great. But there are other people there that want to get uncomfortable, and we're all different. Is it important to be well read? I think it's important to me that I am well read, but it is not important to me that you are well read.
I read because I fucking love reading, and I fucking love reading books in particular fiction. If I didn't fucking love reading, then I wouldn't do it. That's the reason I read. And if I become well read because of that, whatever.
I think the actual real question is what is actually well read? Like, who is... I am well read in Victorian classics, but I'm not as well read in Victorian classics compared to Katie from Books and Things.
Yeah.
And I'm not well read in Chinese classics.
And
So
you're not well read in, like...
science fiction.
Yeah.
I am well read in the Western canon. You
Yeah.
know, whatever that is.
The idea that well read is like super gatekeepery, because it's like, have you read the correct books?
Yeah.
Not just have you read a lot of them. Or maybe it means have you read a lot of them.
Well read means different things to different people. I really like the idea that I can go up and talk to somebody who is a bookish person and be able to talk to them about the books that they like.
Yeah.
Even if they're not books that I particularly like.
Yeah.
But I find that hard. You know, we had a new girl start at work the other week. She likes Karen Slaughter and true crime, and I've not read a single Karen Slaughter book. I knew she was true crime, but that's it.
That's okay. We'll corrupt her.
The book buying process. My process is inconsistent, and I make no apologies for it.
Part of my process is to try and ensure that the books I choose are not all by white straight people.
What is your reading process? Word at a time? I think it might be asking, like, do you stop and research words? Do you annotate? And the answer to this is no.
Try and save my Googling to the end. Like, if there's a word or an idea that I want to explore further, I try and save that till the end.
I'll save it to the end of my reading session.
Oh no, I try and save it to the end of the book.
Unless I really just don't understand what's going on. Especially when I started reading Victorian classics, I can remember just saying to myself over and over again, dyspeptic, 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 and then Googling what dyspeptic meant.
That's funny.
It's quite a dyspeptic thing to do.
Scott broke things.
I broke things.
Yeah.
You all saw it. I didn't move. How do you use what you read?
In conversation on BookTube. I don't know. How do you use what you think?
Do I have to use what I read?
It doesn't have to be useful, no.
I don't think I do.
I learned a bunch of shit about cockholding this year that I will never use.
Ever?
I mean, if you want, but...
I like knowing things. I think it makes conversation more engaging, and I enjoy conversation with people who know different things to me and learning from them, and I just think that it's about bonding and sharing knowledge and going down interesting rabbit holes. That's how I use it. If you could download a book to your brain, would you still read? I really like... So Pay at Attention has a version of this who, you know, everybody watches Pay because he's brilliant. And he says his answer to this is, if you could download a book to your brain, isn't that what reading is?
I like the experience of reading. If I could somehow instantly transport the content of a book into my brain and skip the reading experience, I would really only do that in very specific circumstances. I need information in order to solve a problem. I want a bunch of recipes.
I don't see why you would do that for something like, again, because I use this as an example, a murder mystery novel.
Yeah, because the travelling through, like, the timeline of it is important.
Yeah, the suspense, being in suspense, you know, yeah.
Yeah, if you could instantly download a movie to your brain, would you?
I know Kung Fu. What are your views on rereading a book? Yeah, I think that you should reread books every now and then. I generally find books get better on rereading.
Yeah.
Some books, I think it's really interesting, and I haven't quite figured out why some books get better and other books don't. Maybe it's that I understand them better and I've grown as a person and I'm better able to enjoy those books.
Also, I think just depth. I think some books have the depth for rereading and others don't. I think rereading is a luxury that I don't have time for. But I would like the time for it. If someone would give me $1 million so that I can stop working and just read, then I would read more.
If rereading were to like double your enjoyment from a book, would you reread?
I mean, potentially.
I mean, the thing is, you don't go, I got 7 joy from this book.
No, I don't. And you, like, just like with reading it the first time, every reread is a risk as far as how much extra joy you will get and how much extra anything you will get from that book. So the fewer books you read in a year, the fewer spots you have to fill and the fewer risks you want to take, you know. And I'm at a point where I'm reading new stuff. That's mostly what I'm doing. I have a couple of rereads on my radar, but most of my reading is going to remain new stuff unless I find somehow my reading speed increases or I magically get more time.
I find I often get a feeling about a book that if I reread it, I will enjoy it more. And therefore, I always make sure I reread those books. But I'm not always right. Sometimes I'm spot on, and other times I thought that I would really enjoy Anna Karenina more. I found it about the same.
Yeah.
And I thought that I would enjoy Wuthering Heights more, and I did.
I think that a lot of the things I read in my early 20s I would probably enjoy more now, but that's a lot of books.
Yeah. Was a book good? That is such a big question. Whether I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely my experience of it, and something about staying with me for a while in my little brain.
I have a set of criteria that I evaluate a book on, and I know which of those criteria I value higher. So I value character-focused novels more than I value plot-focused or ideas-focused novels. Mm-hmm. So that is more likely to be a good book, but it's such a big question. I don't think anybody can answer this succinctly, especially not as question 13 in a 20-question tag. Similarly, question 14, what makes a book bad? I think there's definitely easy, low-hanging fruit.
So much easier. What makes a book bad? Crappy author intent, bad ideas, bad characters, bad writing.
Not doing your research.
Something I'm experiencing at the moment. A really, really good book otherwise, but lots of tell, no show. Lots of info dumping. Lots of this character thinks this because of this psychoanalysis that I probably could have done on my own. Okay, thanks.
Personally, for me, if the book jumps around too much, that's something that I don't like. I find that a little bit confusing.
I love it.
I think that some books introduce characters and other books just throw you in and let the characters build those authors have built the characters themselves, and they just build the characters with interaction and let you catch up.
Yeah.
And I find that really off-putting at the start of a novel.
And I love it.
Often, I end up loving those novels because the characters are often fully formed and the author thinks they can get away with it. But I would just personally...
Like an introduction, like at the start of Little Women, where you get a description of what they look like and what their foibles are and their name.
Yeah, their name and how they interact.
Yeah.
You know, how do you feel about not finishing a book? I mean, if it wasn't good enough...
No, I hate it. I still hate it.
You still hate it?
I'm getting better at DNFing, but it makes me feel icky.
I have been having a little private goal to myself to DNF 10% of the books that I have read this year. I think that I'm about on that. Mm-hmm. But I think I would like to up that to 20% next year. I think that...
I think it's a thing that we should do more of. There is such a huge availability of books to be trudging through something you're not enjoying.
Should the author's personal life matter at all?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it really does.
I don't want to read David Eddings because he tortured children. Like, just not interested.
I think knowledge of the author can really add to the book. So not even, I mean, yes, boycotting is important, I think, but from the opposite side of this, the flip side of this, when I know something about the author, I feel like there is a lot of information in a novel. To sort of dissect that information, I often like to have, I call it like a lens, but every time the author is talking about relationships, you know, blah. And if the author thinks something or knows something or whatever, they have an experience, you can often see that experience in the novel. And I think that really adds
not just
to the
novels.
novel.
I think one of sort of my earlier interactions with this idea was we were reading Robert Frost in school. One of his poems is like suddenly really talking about mortality and things. Anyway, when you look at the timeline, it's shortly after his son has died.
Yeah, exactly.
And it actually really enriched my enjoyment of that poem to understand that at that time he was not necessarily grieving, but processing the idea that things didn't happen necessarily in the natural order, and that like a son could die before a father and that sort of thing. It like really added an extra layer of richness to that poem.
Which may have just been about grief beforehand.
Like it might not even be connected, but for me personally, that extra interpretation added value to the poem. So yes, knowing about the author matters.
And how much of the author's intent is subconscious? How much of what's on the page is...
I mean, like, to be honest, I give a rat's ass if it's author's intent. If you can pick it up, then you can enjoy it, whether it's intended to be, you know, like... Yeah. Whether it's intentionally there or not.
The picture of Dorian Gray, knowing that Oscar Wilde is gay, adds so much to that novel that is a little bit harder to pick out if you didn't know. Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, it's not super subtle.
No, it's not. It's not. It's honestly, it's a little bit of a shock that the Victorians missed it. Or I think they chose to miss it, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
But anything that makes it easier for me to understand something is good. And... often that is author's life, but yeah.
I just think context, like artistic context, autobiographical context, historical context, political context, all of these things contribute to the environment that it was created in, and therefore our ability to understand it.
If you could only read one genre for the rest of time, what would it be?
Fiction.
Do you ever read a book without knowing anything about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anything is... I'll know the title. I'll know how long it is.
Yeah.
But I have picked up books that I don't know what genre they are. I read The Red Tent recently. It's a retelling of a Bible story. I didn't know it was historical fiction.
I reckon about 10% of the books on this TBR shelf behind me, I don't remember why I picked them. So when I go to read them, it'll be a nice surprise.
What author, genre, series or culture can you just not get into? Why? I mean, the Beat Generation, because they write horrible books.
Yeah, misogyny and bigotry.
Self-centered, navel-gazing whining from privileged wankers.
Yeah.
That is what it is. Holden Caulfield is,
trash.
That sort of whiny Gatsby. But yeah, it's the worst example is On the Road by Jack Kerouac. That man, jeez, should have been aborted. Is that harsh?
What's next?
Do you think everybody should read Why?
I hope that everyone gets in their life a person who makes time to encourage them to be as passionate about something creative and artistic in the way that my grandmother took the time to ensure that I was passionate about reading. I think that my love of books and the way that has extended into an appreciation of art and music and all the things that humans create that aren't moneymakers has enriched my life in a way that I would never get from anything else, and that I am deeply appreciative of. And I hope that everyone else gets that joy. I do not judge any person for not appreciating what I appreciate, because that be dumb.
I think that everybody should have the opportunity to read in their life.
Yeah.
That is it. And that is the end of the tag.
Okay, bye.
Bye.